the front page. I'm Lembit Opik and welcome to Press Release here on Press TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin and tell it like it is about the events making the headlines. This week we'll be looking at news from all around the world and sorting out the reality from the rubbish. First, a roundup of the week's news with the stories that cause more questions than answers. We'll take a trip to protesting Paris, where President Macron may be provoking another French Revolution. We marvel at Washington's weird logic when it comes to military action abroad, with double standards par excellence. And we reveal why Amazon is delivering everything except goodwill to its employees. What a week, what wildness, what a world! Let's get down to the details and separate the political friction from the political fiction. The French are revolting, literally. They've been back on the streets protesting about their government. In November 2018, more than 280,000 people dressed in high-visibility jackets blocking roads across France in opposition to rising taxes on diesel and petrol. Taxes the government says will fund eco-friendly projects and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Calls went out on social media urging protesters to keep fighting by occupying roads and petrol stations. The question that's been asked is, who are the men and women in the high-vis vests? I can now reveal that they're French people, and they don't like being pushed around by French politicians. With no official leader, no national organisation, no workers' union, and no political party behind it, this is French anger at its very best. There have even been tears, thanks to the tear gas used by the security forces. Now, President Emmanuel Macron isn't afraid of French protesters. Mighty Macron has gone to war against his own voters. He's done lots of things that his supporters don't like, such as labour reforms. While British people protest quietly and calmly, the French are a lot more energetic. A survey found that almost 3/4 of French electors approved of the protests. In fact, more than half of Mr. Macron's own voters support the protesters. How big is the problem? Well, Frank Buller, one of the main protesters, claims they don't want anyone using their movement as a political tool, and they don't want leaders. He even said the French Revolution started with flour wars. For us, it's fuel taxes. Another French Revolution, eh? President Macron must be pleased that these days the worst that can happen is that he loses his job instead of his head. It seems America wants to blame everyone it doesn't like for being in some kind of global conspiracy. So while Washington claims it's allowed to operate in Syria to defeat the Daesh terrorist group, America also claims Iran's presence there makes this impossible. Not surprisingly, Russia has criticized this as weird logic. Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, said,
The US State Department recently declared that ISIS is not yet defeated, and in order to defeat ISIS, the main conditions needed are a change of government in Syria and the withdrawal of all Iranian and pro-Iranian detachments. This confirms my suspicion that the US look upon ISIS as a justification for their military participation in Syria.
It does look like Lavrov's right. The Yanks do seem to have a nutty rationale for what they're doing in Syria. In November, James Jeffrey, Washington's special representative to Syria, claimed that the US presence in Syria was aimed at defeating Daesh and forcing the withdrawal of Iranian advisors. He also said there had been exchanges of fire between American and Russian forces, even claiming the US shootings were in self-defense. It also seems that militants were using US-made equipment in their fight against Syrian army forces. So let's think about this for a moment. America says it's okay for them to operate in Syria and arm militants, but it's not all right for anyone else to be there. And Washington thinks its own military action is fine, but the bad Russians, Syrians and Iranians should keep away. I wonder if America has ever asked itself, Why is there so much trouble wherever we go? A coincidence? Somehow I don't think so. All I'll say is that if America ever asks to visit your home, think twice before letting them in. Because if you do, they'll probably never leave, but they'll tell you to go and live somewhere else. Amazon is the great big parcel delivery company all over the world. Well, they may be experts at delivering stuff, but they don't seem so great at delivering a happy workforce. Police were called in to guard outside an Amazon distribution centre near Madrid in Spain. Protesters marched to the company warehouse, Amazon's largest in Spain, filling the streets with banners and flags. There were violent scenes as the workers demanded better pay and conditions. Then police in riot gear attacked the demonstrators. How did they get their hands on so much riot gear? Maybe they ordered it through Amazon. Anyway, it was a big mess and at least 2 protesters were arrested. It's not the image Amazon usually wants to put forward. That's all about happy customers and friendly staff. Can they afford to treat their staff better? Well, Amazon is not poor when it comes to cash. In 2017, they had net revenue of $178,000 million. They're rich and they're global. So what happens next? The staff will continue to complain and Amazon will continue to grow. I guess they're not worried about angry workers, because one day when Amazon ends up delivering everything everywhere on Earth, even the placards for your demonstration, then Amazon can make a profit out of industrial action against Amazon. And as usual, I'll make some predictions about what could happen in the weeks ahead. Firstly, French President Macron will ignore the protesters and carry on trying to increase fuel prices, maybe so that nobody can afford to drive to the polling stations to vote against him at the next election. America will continue to visit countries and tell everyone else to leave. And Amazon will just keep on growing until they're rich enough to buy everything, including America. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching and join me next time for Press Release, the show that takes the political fiction out of the political friction. Hold the front page, but don't trust it, trust me.